Hello. Um, I'm making summary videos kind of late. It's actually late at night too, but late in the week. I know I really would like to post summary videos for the previous week by the Friday of the following week, so that you're able to kind of feel like there's some connections going on. It'd probably be nice if I did them earlier, but I'd like to take some time to see what you guys have been saying about the previous week, just to think through some ideas and see if there's like something that I really need to address. In this first video, I want to talk about your introductions. It looks like from what I can see in the peer review that you guys are like, most of you are on a really good footing. Those of you who posted, and I appreciate those of you who gave peer feedback. I'm going to, in future, when we do peer review, really set up a clear, very clear, strict rubric. I said one, I want to give you something to really focus on. In this case, I want you to focus on just some of the guidelines that Graff and Birkenstein said in pages 223 through 228, that short section on introductions. And I gave you just something to go off of because I didn't want to really be heavy-handed and take over where you thought you were in your introductions and what you do with your own introductory writing. I wanted to see what you brought to it, but I did want to give you some sort of guide, something to think about when you're doing it, in case you're sort of not really comfortable with it. You think, oh, well, this is what Graff and Birkenstein say, and this I could take this and apply it in some way. And if you didn't, if you thought, oh, well, this wasn't enough, and I didn't have enough to go on, that's fine, because what we're really looking for here in these first few weeks is that you're just putting something down and trying to get your sort of your point of view out. And I mean, that's what these exercises are about, are just really about you getting your point of view out. So I'm trying to get rid of this, like the reflection in my glasses is terrible. I wish there was something I could do to get rid of it. Anyway, but yeah, so I just want to quickly look at some of those pieces of the pages so that when you're thinking about your introductory writing that you've been doing this week, and you might look at these summary videos and say, oh, well, I'm Troy focused on that. Maybe I should focus on that a little bit more. But if there's not, if you feel comfortable and confident about what you're doing, then go with it. But let's take a quick look at the they say, I say part here. So I have to do a quick share screen. I'm still not totally adept at this. Oh, wrong one. There we go. So page 223, one of the hard things about this section, and this is one reason why I wouldn't say, oh, this is what you do. You see here, just in this little paragraph, how many ways you could go about doing this. There isn't one right way. They say, well, you might evaluate the work of other scholars, right? Alternatively, you might point out that that an author's work is largely correct, but that it could use some qualifications or be extended in some way, which is something I love. Nuance is so great. You say, well, yeah, they're right, but they're missing this aspect about the issue, and that's a significant entry point, and it's something that you'll find as you end up getting into higher level courses, that you're not necessarily disagreeing with the person, but you might be disagreeing or pointing out that they're missing something in their argument, or they haven't taken something into account, and therefore making their thesis stronger in some ways. Yeah, not undercutting it, but saying, well, it doesn't look as good if it doesn't take into account this, right? So you say, well, this could be better scholarship or something to that degree. And then the next sentence there, or you might identify a gap in our knowledge. We know a great deal about something, right? So you might do this, you might do that, you might do this. There's a lot of mights going on in this little paragraph here. But what I really want you to know is that you need to make sure that there's they say and I say. So where are you coming from here? And that's great. And then next paragraph, it says, sometimes you join the conversation to a point where the discussion seems settled. And I feel like that's where a lot of these underclassmen get sort of stuck in the writing. I feel like that as a freshman and a sophomore, although there were times I think I just thought I knew what I was talking about, and I just like to argue with texts. And so I would just say, well, there's my perspective's a different perspective, and that's what makes it important. So that's really the point there. But it says, the next sentence, one or more views about a topic have become so widely accepted among a group of scholars or society at large that these views are essentially the conventional way of thinking about the topic. just because they're conventional doesn't make them right. And so the next sentence, you may wish, again, qualifications, you may wish to offer new reasons to support this, this interpretation, or you may wish to call these standard views into question, right? You might say, well, the status quo is articulated in a way that doesn't take into account certain groups' perspectives on this. It certainly doesn't take into account my perspective on this. And that's a significant point to make, is that whose perspective are you taking? It's yours, right? You're bringing to bear all this information, your research, how you interpret the research, the biases you've identified, the utility of your sources. You're the one who's putting this all together in a piece. And so you're saying, well, essentially, this is how you could think about it, but I think about it this way, right? And that's kind of the they say, I say, right? They say you should think about it this way. I say you should think about it that way, right? And that doesn't mean it has to be different. It's simply through your lens, right? You're bringing this together. So you could say, well, there's nothing new to this, but there is something new in my way of thinking, right? The way I see this information, my interpretation is what's significant about this, right? And so that's really important. And they say in the next sentence, to do so, you must first introduce and identify these widely held beliefs, and then present your own view, right? And then they give you this really weird, extremely jargon-esque, dense paragraph to tell you, well, this is one way you go about it. It's nice that they interpret it for you. It's not the greatest example, and I apologize for that. But I think the interpretation makes it sort of evocative, that idea that it can get boiled down into a template in which you're just saying, well, they point out, right, that this was blank because of blank, right? In other words, this, right, it's not accurate because of blank, blank, and blank, right? And that's really the reason I'm giving you this is, like, make sure you're really clear, like, these are the concepts I'm using, right? It's these reasons, right? When you get down to what it is that they say and I say, make sure you're really, really explicit about, these are the things I'm saying they say, and these are the things I say, right? And so it's, you're not trying to hide any elements of what's their argument and what's my argument, right? You really want to be explicit about that. And I don't want to belabor this too much, but I do want to go down into this a little bit more. Like it says, you might enter an ongoing debate by casting your vote with one side or another. That's a great entry point. I've seen some people already do that, that there are arguments being made for one thing or another, or maybe some people are reading data this way and another group's reading data this way. And you say, well, I really recognize this group's data they're reading. Here's why I recognize this group's data and their reading of it. And then when we get down to the templates there, right? It might look something in recent discussions of this thing, right? A controversial aspect has been this, right? And this one's really great. I mean, I would imagine that many of you would just pull this right off and say, okay, I'm just going to use this template to build my introduction. It's obviously not the full scope of your introduction, but it's a great way to say, okay, this is what I want to hinge my introduction on, right? And then again, I want to wrap this up pretty quick. They give you great little templates to think about. Feel free to use those templates at any time. Any of these templates you should be using. And when you're thinking about the idea of writing in the social sciences, right? There's a lot of it that is going to come down to different views, right? Different views on information. So, and your view is important. Your view is valuable. And so, think about when you're if you want to adapt any of these templates from here, still you're bringing in your perspective, like studies of X have indicated this, right? That's a great piece you could use. You can just throw it in there, but really let these templates work for you, right? Don't just try to like adapt them. That's what don't, make sure that they're doing what you need to do. So the last piece here, I just want to point out, again, a good introduction indicates what you have to say in the larger context of what others have said, right? So you're going to be making sure you're thinking about that, again, the larger context here, right? Because for the rest of the paper, you move back and forth between the they say and I say, adding more details, right? You're sitting at this higher conceptual level, and you can see that in the examples that they give you, that, this idea, contemporary ethnographies and journalistic descriptions have thoroughly described deviance, gangs and drugs, intergender relations and sexuality, stymied aspirations, family patterns, and poor neighborhoods. These are all like abstract concepts, right? These are not, I mean, to some degree, there's something concrete, but we're focused on the higher level, broader ideas that are coming into these, right? And then you'll explain how, like in this case, they'd explain deviance and gangs and drugs and intergender relations. They would explain all those things. And then furthermore, which I'm going to roll right back up here and look at this idea. Don't want to get too lost in this. This is the example. And one more thing that I wanted to say about the idea of their focus is writing in the social sciences. And I think I got lost in the text. Where is that point? I'm really missing it. This obviously happens to me. But the point is that where is it? I read down through this. I should have highlighted it and made sure it was clear. Oh, that's right. I think I pointed this out earlier, and that's it. That idea of much of the writing in social sciences takes the form of calling into question that which we think we already know, right? And that's that I assume for the most part that's going to be the crux of all your arguments. Is we assume we know what's going on in all these arenas, or we feel like we have a good idea, and that's really what you're doing. Well, you are taking these assumptions that somebody might make and say, well, actually, here's what's really said about it. And that's what your research is all about, is you say, well, I think I have this question that I'm asking about this because I think I know something about the situation. And then as you go to research it, you find, oh, well, what I know, yes, is true, but it's not true in the way I thought it was, or maybe what was true is in the way I thought it was, and so you're supporting your own position. The idea, though, is you're just simply making sure that you're spending some time focused on really calling into question or being highly skeptical of any information, or particularly your own views, right? That you, as you're writing, you're not questioning yourself to try to crush your own motives, but that you are writing in a way in order to examine what you think, right? And so as you draft these first pieces that you're coming through here, this is the process by which you are examining what you think, right? You are calling into question what other people think and what you think. What did you bring to bear on this? So that's it for the introductions, and I hope that it hasn't been too gruesome to get through here. All right, so I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.